Testing.
Cool.
I say the hip hop, the hippie did it, hop hop, rockin' you don't stop, and now rockin' out now, baby, to the boogie to bang bang, the boogie to the boogie to beat. And what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat.
And me, the crew, and my friends are gonna try to make you move your feet.
You say, I am Iron Mike, and I'd like to say hello. Hello.
To the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple,
That's
and
cool.
yellow.
Flash
But
is
first,
flash.
I got a bang bang, a boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop. Rock the rhythm that'll make your body rock. Now, so far you've... Sorry.
That was good.
I've watched Everybody Want Some too many times. Sorry. Matt's...
Hello there.
Obi-Wan!
Obi-Wan!
I have things to say.
Not anymore, you do.
Hello. Okay. Wait, let's hold it together.
I want Ewan McGregor to raw dog me.
Ew. Ew. Hello.
Side soup!
Hello there, and welcome to a brand new show on the Good Soup channel. It's all of us and some more people, but against a different wall. How exciting! Welcome to the first ever episode of Side Soup. This is going to be a regular/irregular show, separate from the main Good Soup Film podcast. This is going to be our little corner to basically talk about whatever the heck we feel like talking about this week that doesn't fit into the neat little box of a film podcast. So yeah, I'm Matt. We're joined by the regular Good Soup Film guys, Danny, Eric, and Allie, and we're joined by a very special guest. Welcome to the first ever Side Soup special guest, Mr. Will Martinko. Mr. Will Martinko, thank you for being here.
Hello. Hello there.
Hello there. And Mr. Martinko, could you tell us, please, what is it that we are talking about today?
We are talking about Obi-Wan!
Kenobi!
We all have the high ground. We're talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Yeah.
the Disney Plus miniseries.
Big moment right now. First YouTube exclusive content. First guest in studio.
Yeah. This will not be available on Spotify.
No, it will not.
If you want to listen to us, you have to look at our faces. I'm so sorry.
And it will be available on DP, though.
Yeah.
DP.
Yeah.
DP.
Just like Obi-Wan, it'll be available on DP. I get DP from Dan.
Yeah, I get DP from Dan, too.
Yeah, we all get. Do you get DP from Dan?
I do, yeah.
You get your own DP.
I do.
Yeah. So
we,
you know.
we will not be on Disney Plus, but we'll
I
be
get,
right here.
I get DP
I mean,
from my mom.
don't count it out.
Yeah, I mean, House of Mouse sure is watching.
Turner and Hooch makes it. We can.
Yeah. I will preface this episode with just a big warning that this is probably going to devolve very quickly into rants about the prequels, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and all of the extended lore in between. But I'm sure we'll get there in good time.
If you guys haven't read Star Wars Legends Obi-Wan Kenobi, issue 13, spoiler warning.
Yeah.
But that being said, spoiler warning for Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. Pretty much everything Star Wars. We're going to be talking all
We're
over
going
the
to get
place.
really right into it.
What did we think?
What did we think of Obi-Wan?
So, I think Obi-Wan is the best and the worst of what new Star Wars is for Disney.
I agree.
Agree totally.
I agree.
I think that what really is good or is really good, and then really doesn't work, just spectacularly bombs.
Great story, mid directing.
Yeah,
I just think in all aspects of, and we can get into it when we talk about everything, but visually, performance, where the director needs to shine just doesn't happen. But the writing and the story is really, really good. I liked it.
I think the ideas and the story are all there. I think they're great. There's points that I really like about the series. I do agree, and I think that the biggest issue is that Obi-Wan kind of tends to fall into the same trap that a lot of the Marvel shows have fallen into, where they have a good enough concept, and the starting episodes and the ending episodes are both really solid, but then the middle episodes kind of fall apart. Unless you're Hawkeye, in which case you just suck.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason
podcast.
it does that as well is because this was supposed to be a movie, and I think it was a very well 2-hour script movie.
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, we're going to make it a Disney Plus show now because Solo bombed. So they added a bunch of stuff in there, and some of it was good, some of it wasn't. But the core stuff between Anakin and Vader was some of the best Star Wars moments.
I also I wanted to defend Deborah Chow Because honestly, to direct anything like this, and especially a movie following the prequels, like movies that were like extraordinarily hated at the time, and now have come to find like a very like big fan base, like it's basically impossible. But I think Disney and Lucasfilm should have looked at that and went, is Deborah Chow capable of directing this? And I think especially in the action sequences, it shows. And again, like I think that some of the narrative stuff that she does and some of the scenes, the more emotional beats, I think she kind of knocks it out of the park in some of those, but I think that the action scenes are where it lacks.
Yeah, and I think the fact that this turned out as watchable as it is, like I would not call this a bad series.
No, it's not. It's fine. I think it's kind of mid, but like it's good.
It's not my favorite piece of Star Wars media. It's definitely not my least favorite.
Yeah,
I think the fact that it turned out as decent as it is, I think that's good enough for me. You know?
Yeah,
just mid-tier Star Wars.
Yeah. I'll say this. The performance that needs directing, right? So take out Ewan McGregor. He's an executive producer. He's doing whatever he wants. Take out Hayden Christensen. Take out the girl who plays Leia. They all do an awesome job. And, like, some of the supporting, like, returning roles are good, too. Everyone else just feels like they're acting with no direction. It's a lot of, like, one line. It's a lot of, like, we got one take of that, but it's fine. And I don't know if that's an indictment on Deborah Chow. I don't. I wasn't there when this was made. Yeah. I just feel like it could have been so much stronger if they trimmed some of the fat around it, and they just didn't. And some of the other decisions with, like, the unsaturated colors akin to Mandalorian and some of the setting. And to be honest with you, when I watch Star Wars, I've said this a million times, I like the goofy space adventure elements. And even The Mandalorian has that. This has, like, none of it. And all the transitions are very much like cut to the next shot. They don't have that pan across the screen Star Wars thing where it slides out. Yeah. Some of those small, the wipe transition, some of those small choices I think could have made this more fun. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's what everyone wanted for it, and maybe it didn't fit, but that's what I was looking for.
Going back to what you said about the characters, like, it's definitely part of performance. I also just think because, like, lots of the new characters made for this show are sort of, like, half-baked.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the ideas for them are really good. Like, Kamal's character, the con man, that's interesting. He doesn't get a whole lot to do.
Yeah, he's interesting when he shows up, but then doesn't kind of really go anywhere.
I forget her name, but the person who's, like, a part of the Empire, but is secretly a rebel.
She's great.
That could have been good. Talia.
Tala,
she was all right. But again, like, I feel like she could have been better. Yeah. The third sister, really I get what they were going for with her. I feel like she could have been done better.
Yeah.
But also,
like her.
I like her. I think she's overhated.
Yeah.
I think people point to her as all the problems. But I like following Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And, like, I liked a lot of her stuff, but, like, I think also she could have been done better.
Yeah, I like her story the most. But, like, like Benny Safdie just kind of showing up. I love Benny Safdie in the show because he is just, like, he is the perpetual, like, Obi-Wan, you're supposed to be the best of us. Where are you? Like, I think he fits that role so well.
It's so line
funny.
That he delivers in the cantina, whatever it is, though, is just such a wet fart.
It's so funny, though.
It's such a wet fart.
I love it.
And like, I said this to Matt earlier. I'll say it to everyone now. I watched this twice. I watched it as it came out. I can hold it. I watched it as it came out, and I binged it after. It's way better binge. The story is way more cohesive when you watch it all together, which to what Dan said, that it was supposed to be a film. It totally makes sense.
Definitely could have been a 2.5-hour movie.
It makes for example, the first time I watched the third episode, I thought it was really boring, and then I watched it while I was binging it, and I think it's the most compelling episode. It ties everything in, and it's when Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan becomes the man he was in the prequels, and you start to see a further explanation into who he is because he accepts that he's a Jedi, and it's him and Leia like the whole time, and it's a really good. There's the moment where I'm on the back of the truck, and they're talking about their dead mother or his dead wife that they're faking, but then he really starts talking about Padme, and it's like, oh shit, you can see the emotion in his face that seems real to the guards or the troopers, and it is real. And that episode, what Will said earlier, that's when the emotion shines, and I think that's when the show succeeds. And we don't really get a great action sequence until the end of the show.
Really, anytime it's Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah, but even the first Obi-Wan Vader, it feels like they're delaying it because both guys have to live. And that's the overlying thing of the whole show is, like, there's no real danger to Vader or Obi-Wan.
Yeah, or Leia.
because we know that they all make it.
Yeah.
And
damn, R.I.P. Wade.
yeah,
Yo, my
R.I.P.
boy Wade.
Yeah,
Did him dirty, man.
but like
Where's Wade?
we talked
They
about
mourned Wade more than he appeared on screen.
we weirdly talked about this with like Elvis, where it was like, I know what's gonna happen, but I'm still enthralled. With Obi-Wan, a lot of times
biopic,
it
it's
is. It's way different.
different, yeah.
But like in the same vein, I know what's gonna happen, and a lot of times I was just kind of banking on that.
Yeah.
There were some great moments in there though, like when Vader drags Obi-Wan into the coals.
Yeah,
When the fire's
I
burning.
think it's an interesting double-edged sword because I think the moments where the show shines the most, again, it's very mixed bag all over the place for me. I think the moments where it shines the most are when it is taking this emotional Obi-Wan arc, and particularly when it's tied to Anakin.
Yeah.
And the thing
Yeah.
is that I think specifically the Obi-Wan and Anakin, when they're on screen or when they're interacting with each other, is by far the most interesting part of this show. But we get a lot of that Obi-Wan character development when he's helping rescue Leia. So while I think the rescuing Leia parts get probably the most repetitive of the whole show, and it makes me kind of wish that we were just watching more Obi-Wan and Anakin, we're getting more of that kind of Obi-Wan character development that is so interesting in
As
the
a
rest
whole,
of the show during it.
I thought his character development was really interesting, and I've always, ever since the prequels, like Ewan McGregor was the best part of the prequels.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
one thing everyone can
agreed.
agree
Yeah.
on.
And I think the show knows that too.
Everyone always felt he deserved his own project, where he's
Yeah.
also able to properly show his range.
Yeah.
Because as fun as he was in the prequels, like Obi-Wan, like was sort of just like quoting one-liners most of the
Yeah.
time, and it was very interesting to
bless him.
see, like, because like going into Star Wars lore, Kenobi's my favorite Jedi, and I've always been interested in the period between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, because obviously he'd be racked by like guilt and like anger and all that,
Yeah.
and even in like the old comics and all that, we never really saw that explored that well.
Yeah.
So like even like going back, like this is a relatively unexplored period, and so I was very interested to see like how not only how the character Obi-Wan would deal with the guilt revolving Anakin, but to see Ewan McGregor, who's a fantastic actor, be able to like actually dig into it.
Yeah, and I think again, double-edged sword. Like I love that we're getting this Obi-Wan who's racked with the guilt, and really the show is about him, you know, kind of like coming to terms with his relationship to Anakin, his failures, all of that. But at the same time, it feels like it's too afraid to be silly, goofy Star Wars at the same time.
I
But like,
also
does it
think-
need it? I
it
miss
does.
it, but like,
I mean,
don't
I don't know if it's right for this project, but
Yeah.
there's room. Like the stormtroopers don't say anything funny.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, like, you always can rely. I was waiting for it. Every time there's two stormtroopers in a hallway, I
mean,
just wanted a quick.
We get a little bit of it in the Inquisitor base when
A little
we,
bit.
we really get
Yeah.
like we really get the stormtroopers just being like, "This ain't my fucking job." We
Yeah.
get some good bits of that.
And
but
there's
again,
the one
not
where,
enough.
like,
yeah.
they hear the microphone and they're like, wait, did you hear that?
yeah, they're like,
I also
yeah.
think that like Obi-Wan does like Obi-Wan has the story and like the deep foundation for like something good, and then its execution that isn't done properly. Like we talked about the scene in episode 3 with Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan, where, you know, in it the story the stakes are so like high and it's so grounded. It's the first time that Obi-Wan is actually confronting with someone he thought was dead. He was like, he found out he was alive, and he's like standing right in front of you as this dark, brooding figure, and then it just feels like all claustrophobic and weird because they can't shoot that far on the volume.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think, the problem. And again, it's like the volume is such a revolutionary piece of technology, and so is digital filmmaking and green screen.
Yeah,
when
they're
they made the
doing it with.
prequels.
They just showed they're doing. ILM is doing all of that for the new Percy Jackson show.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, they just announced it's like
Yes.
the latest version of the ILM volume. They're using it for that.
Is it bigger?
Listen.
What's that? Yeah, it's
listen.
way bigger.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah,
I
here,
think that was the problem
Yeah,
with.
I'll find a photo.
I think that was the problem with Obi-Wan, was like you reached
Yeah.
the point at which the volume couldn't reach
Yeah.
anymore, and like it felt like they were like moving the camera around, and you'd get. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
excited
Very
to
cool.
hear that. I hope it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rick,
I mean,
Rick
that's-
Riordan doing it right.
Listen.
Yeah.
We can have a whole thing about it.
Maybe we'll do a Percy Jackson episode.
Maybe.
In like 2 years, yeah.
Well, when we do our Stranger Things episode, can Allie and I have like an individual segment on the Mortal Instruments City of Bones?
Absolutely. I'll allow it.
Yeah, we
I want this recording of Allie's reaction to that, because that's hilarious. I'm very excited. She's crying.
Yeah, we can
awesome.
100%.
I think
do
you
that
guys should
one.
have your own show just
Yeah.
talking about like
Yeah.
YA adaptions.
Oh my god, yeah, we can do that. I'm so glad someone else has seen that movie.
Yeah, nah. Good job, Jamie Campbell Bower, for joining Stranger Things. Anyway, back to Obi-Wan. I think that Obi-Wan also, like, we were talking about this like outside of studio. I want to like take a second just to say, Little Leia is good.
Yeah.
Little Leia
Yeah.
rocks.
I've
and-
seen I've
No,
seen
you're
a lot
good.
of pushback on it. The performance is great,
Yeah.
and like it feels like Carrie Fisher's character. The sass is there, but it's not corny sass as one-liners. It's sass with a purpose, with intelligence, and she proves that she's older than her age, which is Obi-Wan says 3 times. You're only 10.
Yeah.
She also feels like the natural child between Padme and Anakin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like obviously that's like said in the finale, but like
Yeah,
when
but,
you
like-
watch her, like you see like
to get that performance out of
Yeah.
a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and
What were you
she's
saying?
also like the perfect Star Wars kid.
Yeah.
Like she's like, it's not like a Gilbert Grape performance.
Yeah.
You know, where Leo DiCaprio's like acting his heart out.
Yeah.
But it's like
No.
it's Jake Lloyd.
It's a
Mark
pod racing
Hamill.
performance, you
It's
know? Yeah.
It's a pod race.
Everything. It's everything you want in Star Wars in a little kid
Also-
actor.
Goofy Star Wars.
Exactly.
Goofy Star Wars.
Yeah.
sticking
Yes.
on Leia for a moment. I feel like a lot of people say that this show contradicts like her prior relationship with Obi-Wan going into episode 4.
It doesn't.
But it really doesn't. And anything, like, I think it fleshes it out more.
People are haters.
Because,
Yeah,
like,
they
when you
are.
watch her message, like, and even, like, the way she talks about Obi-Wan in the movie, like, it feels like she has prior understanding of him.
Well,
Like, he's not, like, a stranger to her.
And if anybody like missed it, because like the thing is, like, I almost missed it watching it, because like again I don't think they focused on it enough or executed it very well. But like the reason why now that in A New Hope and according to canon, the reason why Leia pretends not to know Obi-Wan in A New Hope is because Bail Organa's like message got leaked to Reva.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like it
Yeah.
makes sense, and it adds even a little more to A New Hope too. That there's these stakes that Leia and Obi-Wan knew each other, and I'm not gonna let Dan. I'm not gonna take this away from Dan. Dan, do you want to talk about the sequels now?
Oh, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into them.
You can.
That's
Wait,
a
can I
conversation
say-
for another day.
I don't want to take
But-
it from you.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, even in the if we're taking the new canon, right? Like it makes sense why Leia would name her child Ben,
Yep.
because before this, like, why would she name her child Ben after the only time she met him, he died?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it adds some context to that,
Yeah.
and that's all I'm gonna say about the sequels.
Yeah.
But I feel like it adds more context there.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
I
want to
think-
say anymore.
I
Keep
think
going, Dan.
specifically the 5 of us have had so many conversations over the years about the Star Wars sequels.
Another
that was
day.
really cute.
Thank you. I tried.
Another
I
day
tried.
we can talk about
Anyways.
the sequels.
Yeah, it's
Um,
there's feelings.
Yeah. Anyways, Vivian Blair played little Leia.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
She's great. Yeah, she's
she
adorable.
she's what, 10? Yeah, great acting for a 10-year-old.
Somehow better than Rey in the sequels.
Yeah.
Eh.
What
I
is
would-
it?
No,
I would-
no, we're not getting into it.
No,
But
listen.
Daisy
We're not gonna talk about
Daisy
it. We're
Ridley
just
wasn't
not
the
gonna
problem.
talk about it.
Daisy
We're not
Ridley was
getting
not
into
the
it.
problem.
We're not
One
talking about
thing
it. That's
is-
another day.
Like, I think Matt knows this about me. I'm not sure if the rest of you do. I actually prefer the sequels over the prequels.
Okay, we're gonna not
Sorry.
talk about it. This is another day.
So
Another day.
anyway.
Another day.
Yeah, it's
Anyways,
fine. Yeah.
anyways, I think
would,
that
Will,
No,
after
Dan,
this podcast,
Dan,
I would
just-
love to talk to you.
Dan,
Can you meet me
Talk
out
Dan.
about it
back?
now.
Yeah,
Talk
we'll-
about it
we'll
now.
meet in
It's a
the
side
alley.
soup. Who cares?
all right.
Side soup. We're back. We're new.
All right, let Allie get her goddamn.
Side
All I
soup.
was gonna say, I brought this up before, like outside of the podcast, but oh, it's gone.
Side soup.
Oh, I've been trying to say it.
got
I
this.
said it before.
You got it.
When we messed up the recording.
I
What did I
believe in
say
you.
before?
We didn't mess up the recording.
Yeah. What are you
No,
talking
we're
about?
gonna cut all this because I'm confused.
What were you, Leia? Were you on
Yeah.
top of Leia? The performance.
about her last
You said Vivian. Oh yeah. If you liked Leia in the original trilogy but didn't like her as a kid, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I saw it on TikTok, but I agree with the point this person made, and it was that people who are complaining about like little Leia and her performance and are like, she doesn't act like the character. Their argument was that they didn't actually like Leia in like the movies. They just were attracted to her, and so seeing her as like a little child and
Yeah.
acting in the same way is like not endearing in the same manner because they just found her
Do
sexy.
you think? that-
I also think that, and a lot of people have this sentiment that Carrie Fisher would have loved her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't like nothing else needs to be said.
It's not sass for sass. It's sass with meaning and intelligence. Like,
Yeah.
she's not just sassy to do like one-liners and be edgy. She's very smart and perceptive.
And she is the child of Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
And she
Absolutely.
is Leia.
And
Yeah.
even like this like
she's a child of your
everyone
gods.
was like
Yeah.
the chase scene and like silly things like that. Like that's not really on the actress. Like
Yeah.
that's not really on Leia's character. Like that like literally had nothing to do with her.
Isn't it what?
really
like-
ran into a tree branch and couldn't get through it.
It's on him. No,
They
but,
were
like they're like, oh well, this character sucks because of this, that, and the other thing. But there are things that
That's-
are not
It's
applicable.
it's really wild that there's like a whole generation
Yeah.
of kids right now that are like having to cite TikToks as like an MLA format, like on their college thesis.
Yeah.
I just think that's wacky. You said like just the way you said like I saw it on TikTok, but I agreed with their point. Like
Something-
I feel like in an English 801 class somebody's doing that in a research
Yeah.
paper.
I mean,
just,
yeah.
just made me
People
laugh.
write, like tweets and YouTube videos
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
God, I'm 1,000
Something
years
I want to
old.
do to like paint a broader brush on this, and I talked to Matt about it a little bit earlier. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Rob Boss.
The Star Wars dilemma for me.
Mhm.
All of this Disney Star Wars content
Mhm.
isn't necessarily, besides the sequels, creating new content. It's fleshing out some of the mystique around the original characters,
Yeah.
including Obi-Wan. Now, we did say this does play more towards the prequel Obi-Wan than the original trilogy Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
However, it does bridge some of that. Obi-Wan's a Greek tragedy, character. He
Yeah.
trains Anakin, who then becomes Darth and becomes this evil figure who wants to, work for the Emperor and take over the galaxy, and to an extent, early in the original trilogy, kill his kid. But having some mystery around that, having some intrigue around that, creates kind of a choose-your-own-adventure around the character where you in your mind, when you're watching it, can kind of fill in the blanks, and I think that that's almost magical.
Yeah, and
This Disney content that's filling in the gap is kind of taking away from that a little bit, and I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't know whether I prefer it over the
my
alternative.
personal argument for that though is I agree to some extent. Like I don't think Han Solo needed a movie.
No.
I don't think Boba Fett needed a show.
No.
I would say of all the characters who deserve their own spinoff, Obi-Wan was by far the one who I
agree.
think deserved it the most.
yeah, and
Especially because not only taking the fact Ewan McGregor is an actor, who is a great actor, and in the prequels, Obi-Wan's by far and away the best part. Ewan didn't get to show that much range.
Yeah.
So I feel like having him have his own show in a relatively unexplored time period, where you get to explore his guilt, I think that's the best thing you could have done if you were to take an existing
Agree.
character.
They did it the best way they could have done it. The
Yeah.
story itself is the best story they could have told.
Yeah.
My question is, did we really need the story in the first
and
place?
I'll agree to an extent because I think that I like this one in particular because it feels like a nice bookend to another story. It feels
Yeah.
like it wraps up the Obi-Wan and Anakin very well. That being said, I think the issue that we're seeing with new Star Wars and stuff is exactly what you guys are saying, where we're getting Dave Filoni and even stuff like Boba Fett and Han Solo, where we're just getting repetition. We're getting the same stories told over and over again, or the areas that really aren't that interesting.
And
being
also,
told over.
one thing I have noticed, and this plays into Kenobi as well, to a big extent, I should say.
Yeah.
When you say same story, it's literally the same story.
Yeah.
Gruff,
Yeah.
old,
Yes.
guilty person takes young child.
Yeah, like Obi-Wan and
goes on
Mandalorian
redemption.
are the
Kenobi,
same thing.
Mandalorian, even their new animated show, Bad Batch,
Yeah.
follows a similar premise where it's a bunch of clone troopers after Order 66.
Yeah, and we see Order
And
66
no,
a bunch of times.
but they
yeah.
find a young
Again.
clone.
Yeah.
And so then they got to take care of the young clone.
I think.
And it's the same premise in 3 different
Yeah.
shows. And
I mean, I think that with Eric's point, I don't know why, in a galaxy far, far away, we have to keep going back to Sand Planet.
to
Yes.
Tatooine,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Even
to do all
Jakar
the
with the
same
sequel,
exact
yeah.
thing
everything's Tatooine.
over and over and
Jakku.
over again.
No, we go to the same setting, we do the same thing, and now on Disney, it's undersaturated, it's handheld, it
Yeah,
looks
and
different.
One
I-
was
I
very
think-
strange,
but
though.
it's the same.
When you take Boba Fett and Kenobi, right?
Mhm.
It would make more sense for Boba Fett to go on a galaxy-wide adventure.
Yeah.
And Kenobi to be only on Tatooine.
Yeah.
But they sort of switch those around.
Yeah.
And I think
know?
Eric, you and I have had it, and I think Will, we've had this conversation. I've had this we've talked a lot about Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think the main issue with new Star Wars is that they're a distillation of a distillation. The
Yes.
original trilogy Star Wars was sci-fi opera cheese that was based on samurai movies and westerns and,
And,
had
like,
very
Flash
clear
Gordon.
inspirations. And even the prequel trilogy was the same kind of very Episode 3 in particular is a samurai movie. Like
Yes.
if you watch it, if you were to watch the like Episode 3 in Japanese with English subtitles, I think it's a much better time. But again, I think The Mandalorian has been able to recapture that to a degree where it's playing up to Western tropes much more than Star Wars tropes. But now, like Obi-Wan, sequel trilogy, they're really just kind of playing off of Star Wars rather than playing off the original inspirations for Star Wars.
Yeah.
One interesting thing. It's 2 points, really. One, the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, I'll call them eras. Original era and prequel era have their own vibes.
Yes.
Right? You can tell just by looking at a scene which era it's in.
Yeah.
That everything post-Disney hasn't really had its own era or vibe to it.
It just
No.
looks like
it just
everything
feels
else.
like a rehash of the original.
It just
And-
feels like Disney.
And also, like, the way the new series and movies works is it's always so, like, so Force Awakens was very, like, anti-prequels, right?
Yeah.
They're like, we're ignoring the prequels. We're a sequel to the original trilogy,
It's just a
essentially.
New Hope with
that
a fresh coat
era.
of paint. Yeah.
But then Last Jedi said, we're the anti-Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to be Force Awakens. We're doing something new.
Yeah.
And then Rise of Skywalker was very anti-Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I
and
thought
then
it was
going
just
into the
dog shit. but-
Yes, but pretty much Rise of Skywalker was like, we seen all the critics for Last Jedi. We're gonna go as
but again,
basic as you can.
But again, the sequel trilogy
Everything-
still exists in this weird bubble
yeah, but
of playing
everything
off
in
of
this
Star
Disney
Wars.
era has felt like a reaction to something else.
Yeah.
and not just like building its own world.
Yeah.
and stuff.
Instead of building
I'd
its own
agree.
world and going back to the roots.
Yeah.
I think it lost for a space opera series. It lost the operatic nature since
Yes.
the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
because the Last Jedi, if anything, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if
And-
anything, the Last Jedi like changed the game, and people didn't like it, so Disney cowered in fear and
again,
just
goofy Star Wars.
didn't want to do
So
it.
this is my main point, and I love the original trilogy. I am an original trilogy guy. My favorite film is Star Wars, which has been renamed A New Hope, but is Star Wars. And my least favorite of the first three is Empire Strikes Back, which is a hot take, but I don't like the melodrama. I want the wacky, goofy space adventure.
You
with
like
a
the
little,
Ewoks.
Yes, I like the Ewoks. Sue me about it. I think they're great. I think like all the goofy, stupid space adventure, wacky stuff is really endearing.
Yeah.
And the melodrama drags everything down. This entire Obi-Wan series is shrouded in melodrama. There's very little fun. There's very little goofiness. Now, it does happen, but it happens in the form of like Leia's sass, which is good.
Yeah.
Or it happens in like
It
some
feel-
of
it
the,
feels
the
very-
ancillatory, like the Zach Braff cameo.
Yeah,
like some of the ancillatory characters.
It feels very modern.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very modern, and those moments of fun, goofy space adventure are fleeting. We don't get a lot. And I think that's what made Star Wars so fun, because we talked about it when we talked about Top Gun. You sit down, you have a fun time with a movie. The original first three movies had serious beats, but they were great because they were less Shakespearean and more fun, goofy space adventure. And I still love Revenge of the... No, that's not what I'm
Return
trying
of
to
the
say.
Jedi?
Empire Strikes
Empire.
Back. I always get those titles confused. I still love Empire Strikes Back. It's a fantastic film. It's just very melodramatic, which inside of the first three movies, it fits. But now everything after that has become, well, that was the popular one. We need to recreate that moment.
I
And
also
I think
feel
it just
like
falls flat.
Combining what you said and go back to what I said, the first three movies, the way they're styled is they're filmed after like samurai movies, Flash Gordon, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas all the new stuff doesn't really take inspiration from those. It just takes inspiration from the original trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it just feels like a deflated
What Matt
thing
said,
of-
distillation of a distillation, which
Yeah.
we've talked about like many times on the pod, and it's usually when something feels phony and corny.
Yeah.
This feels less like that than other stuff.
Yeah,
But-
I'd say this is better than the sequel
Again, I
trilogy.
think a remake of a remake. I think the writing's really original and cool in this, and again, I think the directing is very mid and just cliche of exactly what they've been doing with Star Wars.
Yeah, it is-
handheld, washed colors,
Yeah.
just meh.
I think it's interesting how much we really miss George Lucas.
100%.
Like, I don't think, like, I think when the Disney merger first happened, I think a lot more people were like, yeah, fuck George Lucas. Nobody likes the prequels. And now, like, I wish he were still doing
Well, because
it.
George
Honestly,
Lucas,
I don't
he's a
agree with
great
that.
idea
Yeah.
man.
I think that Lucas was burnt out, and he was like, he looked at the opportunity to make some money, and then he was like sitting there. He's like, well, I put Episode 4 in front of Star Wars, and I put Episode 5 in front of Empire Strikes Back, and I put Episode 6 in front of Return of the Jedi. And I think he sat there and it's like, I could make some money doing episode 1. And he had the story and he had the outline that he originally wrote. And I think he just went into it. He wanted other people to direct it, but when no one would direct it, he just chose to.
Yeah.
So he didn't even want to direct it. And then, people argue that Disney course corrected the entirety of their sequel trilogy. You could argue the same for George Lucas. Jar Jar Binks definitely had a bigger role in the prequels than the prequels actually gave us. And George Lucas course corrected majorly there. He course corrected majorly with a lot of different things in regards to Darth Vader's storyline, in regards to
honestly,
killing the younglings, and we got more youngling killing in Obi-Wan.
Great.
My God.
Yeah,
Can I
we
just say
needed
this
that.
about George Lucas, though? Everyone always bitches and fights about how exact Star Wars canon needs to be. George Lucas, he switched canon with the switch of a
Yeah, he
thumb.
doesn't give a fuck.
And
So, whenever there's, canon issues, I'm like, who cares?
I think
Yeah.
I'll rephrase my statement as saying I don't miss George Lucas as the solely in control individual. My stance on George Lucas has always been that he is a fantastic ideas man.
Yes.
He is.
And he is a terrible captain at the
Executioner.
wheel man.
Yeah.
A lot of people argue that the original trilogy is only as good as it is because so many people were giving him so many
Yeah, it
notes and
is.
so much
Episode
Yeah, and
4
you know what?
was, saved in the edit.
He made
Yeah.
a lot of
Big thing.
mistakes. He ripped the original special effects from the film and updated them, which I'm still bitter about
Yeah.
because they won awards and were great for their time, and
Don't
now
you-
we have these shitty CGI.
Don't you love that scene where, a giant CGI
the big
lizard
blue
just
elephant,
walks in
yeah.
the frame?
Yeah, it's just he's done so much shit like that. But if you ask me, would I take Phantom Menace over every single one of the sequels? 100%. 10 out of 10.
I disagree.
I hate all of the sequels. They're so bland and stupid,
think
and
Phantom-
nothing's going on.
I disagree
And,
to an extent. but that's
I also disagree. To
I
an
think
Really?
extent,
Phantom-
You
No.
would take any of the sequels over Phantom Menace.
Here's
I
what I will
would.
say, and
Let me say this.
I will say
Eric,
this because
this is what I'll say.
I
The
just-
worst one is Rise of Skywalker by far.
The
Yeah, no
worst one,
shit.
I'd agree. The worst one is Rise of
would
Skywalker.
agree.
However, I would watch Rise of Skywalker over Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones any day. I just think I'd rather watch solid performers and okay direction over just
Are
boring
you saying
politics.
Rise of Skywalker has either solid performance or solid directing?
I think it has a little bit of both.
So
a little more than the prequels.
here's what I will say, and I think I will generally speak for most of us here when I say this, in that I like The Force Awakens and I like The Last Jedi in a bubble. I think on their own they are actually pretty dang good Star Wars movies, and they're really fun to watch. I think as a cohesive trilogy, it's an absolute dumpster
I don't wanna
fire.
devolve
And
into
they
a
don't
rant.
they don't work well together. And Rise of Skywalker, I would put Rise of Skywalker at the very bottom simply because
So would I.
it doesn't feel like an actual cohesive movie
It's
to me.
not
It
a
just
movie.
feels like a half
and then there's
I
that
could
scene
go-
where Adam Driver pouts and throws a lightsaber off the cliff. Just shoot me in the head.
I could go on a 30-minute sequel trilogy rant, but I'm going to
yes,
save that for
yes,
another day.
yes. We'll
Yeah.
keep
Because let's
it-
just
we'll keep
focus
it
on
minimum.
Kenobi.
Yeah.
Let's focus on Kenobi.
Yeah,
And Disney Plus.
Okay, question.
Okay.
Where do you slot Kenobi among all Star
Everything?
Wars content?
Honestly, I think I would put it with the Solo movie. I think it's on par with that.
Oh, I
where
think
it's like,
Solo's much better than
Oh, I think
Obi-Wan.
Kenobi's better than Solo.
so I think interestingly enough, Solo and Kenobi I think fall into the same kind of level of quality for me and same level of importance. Where I'm like, I watched that, I didn't have a bad time watching that. I don't know if I'll need to watch it again. Okay, I think I will take Obi-Wan over Solo. I think Obi-Wan adds more to the general. I think I'm more glad that they made Obi-Wan than I am that they made Solo. I also would heavily say that I'd rather see the Chris Lord and Phil Miller version of Solo, but
Yeah.
that's an
I would
entirely
also-
separate rant.
If it helps, I would also much rather see the movie version of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
agree.
Where would you stack it with Rogue One?
So I like Rogue One less than a lot of people. A lot of people really like
I don't
Rogue
like
One.
Rogue One.
I think Rogue One does a good job. I think it does the best job of recent Star Wars media to capture the aesthetic and the vibe of the original trilogy. I don't like Jyn Erso as a character.
Nope, don't either.
I think she's incredibly boring, and I
Yep.
don't think she has any agency
A little bit
or
irritating.
I don't think she does anything in her own story. She just kind of gets dragged
No.
from place to place.
Yeah.
That's besides the point.
I'm excited for the
I would
Andor
put it-
show because
yeah.
it's going to take the best parts of Rogue One.
Yes.
So I would
Agreed.
put Rogue One ahead of Solo for sure. I really didn't like Solo. I thought it was just super corny.
Yeah, Solo's
But
fine. I would also
I'd-
put Rogue One above Solo.
I'd put I put Obi-Wan on the same level as Rogue One.
I'll agree with that.
Slightly
I'll agree
below
with that.
Live Slug reaction.
You see, I would put Solo over all of them. I don't know. Solo, I have a very, I know my take on Solo is very polarizing, and
I'm here for it.
You're allowed to like a movie, Will.
A lot of people disagree with me. I actually think, and I'm willing to say this, and I'm willing to say this on camera. Solo might be my favorite of the Disney stuff.
Really?
Honestly,
Okay
because
with
I
that.
sat there and I was like, I watched Solo and I was like, entertained the whole time. It's
Yeah.
very gray. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very,
It's Ron
very
Howard.
gray. But like, it's the only one that I feel like does something new
Yeah.
with Star Wars.
I don't think Solo's
And
bad at all.
besides The Last Jedi.
It's an
I'll allow
adventure
that. I'll allow
action
that, yeah.
movie
Like
in
I-
the Star Wars universe, which is
Yeah.
neat.
And it's like Pirates of the Caribbean in
Yeah,
space,
yeah.
and I
It's-
love
it's
Pirates
a
of the
heist
Caribbean, and I
movie
love
in
Star
space.
Wars.
Yeah.
Solo is at the very least very inoffensive.
It's
it
watchable.
doesn't.
I don't
It's-
think Solo
I'll give
had to
it-
be made,
it-
but it was
yeah.
a fun time.
It's watchable. I think Obi-Wan's a little bit better than watchable, which is why I'm going to put it up just for
Yeah.
the Anakin moments.
Yeah.
And like
Okay.
the down ticks in Obi-Wan while they are frustrating are not unwatchable.
Yeah, and I'll say the lows in Obi-Wan I'd say are lower than the lows in Solo.
Sure.
But I think the highs in Obi-Wan
way higher.
are higher than
I mean,
the highs
in
in
my
Solo.
And I don't know
opinion,
if
the
that's-
best Disney Star Wars moment was when Obi-Wan cut the mask open.
Yeah,
and was talking to
that
Anakin.
if that scene were the substance of the entire show, it
Yeah.
would be a much
Can
better
I ask
show.
you a question
Yeah.
though? So Vader. Okay, bye. Vader brings the whole ship down.
Yeah.
He collapses all the rocks onto Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But then when Obi-Wan's throwing the rocks at Vader, he can't force block them. And also, like, I guess that's a strength versus strength, which is fine. But
Yeah.
also when they're fighting, he's force blocking the lightsaber. Why can't he do that every
Look,
time?
I mean,
and I
my-
guess I'm poking holes in
No,
stuff
you're
that doesn't
right.
need holes
The
poked
Force
in.
is just so
Right.
inconsistent.
It's
That's
so
just best not to
inconsistent.
think
I think
about
it's
it.
also more of like moments of rage versus
Yeah.
like being taken.
I also
aback
think for
by
the Force, the way I see it, is always like to do specific stuff, you need to be in complete focus with it.
Yeah.
So when you're focused a lot on like
Yeah.
Obi-Wan
Yeah.
fighting, you can't really like
And I think
get the moment to
it's
like,
probably like a strength versus strength thing. Like Obi-Wan's regaining his strength in that
Yeah.
battle, so he has the upper hand.
I also think they establish a lot that Vader was very weak around Obi-Wan because he was so
Yes.
driven by rage.
Yes, and I think
So he wasn't in his complete
Yeah,
focus.
and I think one of my final thoughts on Obi-Wan that I want to say is just I think I went into this with an expectation that I think I was very happy with how it came out. Where I knew Obi-Wan was coming out and I was ready, I was excited to watch it, but I didn't need it to be episode 3.5.
Yeah.
I was completely willing and honestly hoping that it would be more of a slower paced, kind of almost meandering show. Like it didn't need to be the most exciting, the most, earth shattering thing. It was meant to be like an epilogue to Obi-Wan in the sequel or I said original then sequel,
Yeah.
prequel trilogy. It was just meant to be a bookend on his and Anakin's
Yeah.
story. So I wasn't really, I wasn't
did it.
really hoping for it to be like another episode 3.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting
was
to just
just-
fill in a little bit of detail.
I was just happy, no matter how good or bad the show was.
Yes.
I got to see Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi with Hayden Christensen again, and I was happy.
honestly getting to see that.
And honestly,
makes the entire show
wait, to bring
worthwhile.
Hayden back real quick, because I
Yeah.
think we're going to talk about him. There's a lot to say about him in the prequels.
Yes.
I feel like he really got to shine as Anakin. Like, he didn't have a lot of on-screen moments.
Yeah.
But the moments he did have, I feel like it was nice to see him with better writing and some better
Yeah,
direction.
and I think it's also interesting because I don't think we talked about it in this recording, but the hype up reel of the prequels
Yeah.
right before Obi-Wan, before
Yeah.
the first episode of Obi-Wan, we get this like really epic montage recap of the prequel movies, actually, I think for a reason, because I think if you, the more I sit here and think about it, the more I'm like, if you're looking at the prequels through the lens of that recap, like if that's how you feel about the prequels, if you can distill it into that, then like
It's fine.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Honestly,
like,
too,
that is
like-
the best way to
The-
view the
the
prequels.
One more
creates
thing I
a
want to mention about
reason.
Hayden and Ewan to an extent, right? I do like, as much as the prequels are a meme now,
Yeah.
I love how much more receptive people are to Hayden.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
after the prequels, man, people bullied the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Jake Lloyd's life's ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Kid Anakin.
Ahmed Best too.
Yeah, but
played
now
Jar
like
Jar.
Hayden's like at Star Wars celebrations, people are cheering his name.
Yeah, people are
he
like
looks so
freaking out.
happy.
Yeah.
and it's just so nice to see
It is
because
so nice to
he
see.
was so bullied for so long.
And listen,
man.
like whether we love or hate the prequels as adults, as a kid I watched Phantom Menace once a week, maybe more.
Yeah.
I would come home, pop that VHS in, and play the shit out of that movie, and I
Yeah.
loved it.
And
I
that's who
still-
they made it for.
That's what they made it for kids. And it's why the new ones frustrate me, because like they're making them for kids, but they're not leaning into it.
They're honestly,
And-
I would argue that they were making the sequel trilogy for adults.
Yes.
Okay. See, but then there's like the BB-8 thing where they're just trying to sell toys. And like,
Yes.
Yeah,
like
but I mean,
sell merchandise is different from making a movie.
movie for
Appeal
kids.
to children. Yeah.
And if they made those movies to appeal to kids, I would have been more fine with them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Well-
also think that the retrospective reel that opened up for Obi-Wan was like an example as to why they felt Obi-Wan needed to exist.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
why like Dave Filoni pushed it forward.
Mhm.
In the other recording, we talked about kind of the intensity that Dave Filoni has with the prequel story, and that Qui-Gon Jinn was the father,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan was the brother, and the brother had to raise the brother. And then that's where the opera fell apart, and that's where the story fell apart
Yeah.
and was destroyed. So it's like, you know, that is how Dave Filoni and the producers of Lucasfilm view Star Wars. And they're like, you know, when people watch this reel and this retrospective, this is what we see, and this is why Obi-Wan needs to exist. And
Yeah.
again, like,
real quick.
is the world worse that Obi-Wan exists? No. But like, again, I don't think it lived up to that reel.
Yeah, and I think the main I think my main takeaway from Obi-Wan, you know, I have things that I really enjoyed about Obi-Wan. I had things that I wish were different about Obi-Wan. I think this is a Star Wars piece of media that I am glad exists.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I watched it. And
Yes.
like, I was so excited for this. Just even if simply to see
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor and
I mean,
Hayden
dude, the night it
Christensen
came
that
out,
fight
on
me
screen.
and you were having drinks. Like, dude, it comes out in 20
Yeah,
minutes.
I know. Like,
remember when I wasn't invited to that?
Yeah, I
'Cause
remember
you
that.
guys were like, "Oh, Eric
Yeah,
doesn't."
that was very intentional. We actually hate Eric and didn't
Yeah,
want him in our
yeah.
house.
We're sitting here doing the podcast, and I'm like, "Oh, you guys are gonna go watch Obi-Wan," and then they did, and I was like, "Hey, I'd like to be there next time."
gonna
And
be-
you know what? I didn't even get the fucking invite until the last episode.
I'm going to be real. I didn't think you were serious. I didn't think you actually cared about Obi-Wan.
That's hurtful.
I
You
didn't.
know, it's
I
fine.
I thought you were just being cynical Disney man.
Well, listen, I am cynical Disney man, and I hate what they've done with Star Wars. They've ripped the soul out of my favorite original trilogy franchise. But like,
This is very personal. For
I'm
Eric.
still gonna fucking watch it. Like,
Okay.
and
Now-
you know what? I will say this. You heard everything I said going into it. I would give it an exceeded expectations. Because I have no faith in Deborah Chow, and while I
Harsh.
think the directing was like bad, and what my last point was going to be,
Harsh.
if the directing had been good with the story we were given,
Wow.
I think this could have been really special.
Yeah.
If they kind of tried to capture some of the original Star Wars things and less nods in story and more nods in like editing and presentation, I think it could have been really special. However, I still think it's really good. It exceeded my expectations, and like you said, I am better for watching it. I'm glad that they made
Now,
this.
what I'm curious about is, as much as I really did enjoy the show, I enjoyed it a lot. They've been talking about doing a season 2.
No,
I don't
and
need
I
it.
really don't want it.
No,
Because,
I don't want it.
like,
It's over.
It's over.
The story's
Yeah.
over.
Yeah,
Like, there's-
this is all I needed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to see Obi's training with Qui-Gon in the Force.
Yeah. Now, I think
Like-
Eric, you've talked about it a lot where it's like you like the ellipses in between
Yeah.
stories. You like to
Yes.
be able to imagine what happened next. I think having him walk off into the sunset and talk with Qui-Gon for a moment and Qui-Gon be like, "Come, Padawan, we must train." I think that is all that I
Yeah.
need.
Bingo.
That
the
gets my
Nailed it.
that gets my imagination
Yeah.
moving in so
and
many
that is
different
the
directions.
perfect ending for Ewan's tenure as Obi-Wan.
Yes.
I agree.
I think TV shows as a whole, like across like networks, like streaming services, like cable, whatever you want to call it, always have a problem with dragging things out when the story ends because they
Yeah.
want more money, they want more runtime, blah blah blah.
Supernatural.
Supernatural.
Detective.
there's so many examples of when things
different
just go
seasons.
past when their story
It's
is
like different
finished,
shows.
and I really don't want to see this happen
Yeah.
in Obi-Wan.
So, do we not get our YA show then?
What are you talking about?
Our YA show
What
with the
YA show?
Mortal Instruments.
What you want to talk about? Shadow?
Yeah, no, we
Hunters?
gotta
Is that what you're talking
we gotta crank out all the spin-offs of the good soup,
Listen.
side soup.
Yeah.
All right, that'll be another topic. I think we can probably go for like 2 hours. Will.
There we go.
And
We'll be
I
back.
think that the perfect summarization for Obi-Wan
Mhm.
is you'll like it if you like the original
Yeah.
trilogy. If you like the prequels, you'll like Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
You'll have a good
Yeah.
enough time with it. Are there boring moments? Sure. Are there bad performance and kind of bad choices made in the direction? Sure. But
thi-
all together, it's good.
I think if you go into it as a fan of Star Wars and not
Yeah.
like not like this weird like fandom has become very weird in the
very
past like
critical.
decade.
Also, as a
like-
whole, the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah,
is
especially the
toxic
Star Wars
fandom.
Yeah,
fandom.
and they
Yeah.
treat this like it's some kind of like interstellar sci-fi
Yeah.
where it's like we have to break down every element. And I did it a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
but like it's not. It's a wacky space adventure.
Yeah.
Let it happen.
Yeah, I think
Let it
Let
go.
it be wacky.
Yeah, let it be wacky.
Let Star Wars be wacky.
Yes, bring back wacky Star Wars. And if you need someone to direct a wacky Star Wars, my cell phone's wide open.
And
you know?
also, like,
I got
as much
nothing coming
as
in.
much as I enjoy,
I think I got a live shoot the end of the month, but besides that, I'm
as
wide
mu-
open Disney.
As much as
Book
I
Eric.
enjoy the exploration of Ewan as Obi-Wan,
Weddings and venues.
I really hope that going forward, we just don't focus on characters we know.
I just
The
hope we
Star
do
Wars
something new.
universe is so massive. Go way in the past. Go way past the sequels. Like,
That's why I mean Taika Waititi's doing a
Yeah.
trilogy, and he said it has absolutely
Yeah,
nothing
and
to
I'm
do
excited
with
for that.
anything that we've seen before.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, honestly.
You know, with Taika Waititi, it's going to be wacky space adventure.
Yes,
And
it is
again,
gonna
I
be
think
wacky.
the sequel trilogies were not geared at a new generation of fans. I think they were geared at the current generation of fans.
Yes.
And the prequels were geared at a new generation of
and
fans.
the Disney
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
are geared.
At an
At the
old
same-
generation
at
of
the same,
fans,
yeah.
you know?
I'm gonna
And, like,
derail.
and keep in mind, I love The Mandalorian. I love season 2 a lot.
Yeah.
Season 2 fell into the trap of here's Ahsoka, here's Luke,
Yes, it
here's
did.
all this stuff,
And it was cool.
and it was cool to
but-
see. But like my fear for season 3 is that
that
it's
it
just gonna
be-
become
yeah.
fully that.
Yeah.
Like
I think,
like
I think
seeing
it's going to
Luke.
be the battle for Mandalore.
Yeah,
but that's,
so do I. So do
yeah.
I. But like I don't want to see like seeing Luke once was great.
Yeah.
It was a great moment.
I also think they should
don't-
have just recast Luke, but that's
I disagree for that moment.
It's another rabbit hole.
But
Yeah.
like I don't want to see Luke pop up again.
yeah.
I don't
need
want
him.
to see all these characters pop up again. I want it to be solely about the Mandalorian.
It's the Rise of Skywalker issue where it's like, what do we do? Bring back Palpatine. And it's just like, no. How
Palpatine's
about you
returning.
don't?
They fly
how about,
now?
How about you
They
give me?
fly now?
How about you give me a fucking new story like you promised? But you brought Luke back, and you brought Palpatine back, and you brought Han Solo back, and you brought Leia back, and I didn't ask for any of that. I wanted a new damn story, and you didn't give me one. And maybe the Taika Waititi trilogy, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be the wacky space
I mean, who
adventure.
knows if it'll actually get made? We've been waiting on
Yeah.
the Ryan Johnson trilogy.
Well, guys, remember
Yeah.
the D&D trilogy?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. On that
Listen
The,
here.
the Jon Snow spinoff show. What a wild.
We're not talking about that.
Talk to that.
No,
That-
we're not
Next
talking about that.
episode. Next side soup.
Did you have something to say, Will?
No.
Wait, can I say one more thing before
Yeah,
we
go
wrap
ahead,
up?
go
We
ahead.
don't need to keep talking about it.
Uh-huh.
And I know Eric doesn't always agree with me, but I don't think we mentioned it on this recording.
Okay.
Guys, there was one recording.
I liked Reva. I know Eric didn't like
Yeah.
Reva.
No, I
do
like
think
Reva.
Moses did
I
a
think
really,
Reva's
really
okay.
great job.
Yeah.
I don't think there was very too much to her character, but I think acting wise, she did a really good
I think
job.
she is. I think she is as good as the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like she
think-
could have been done better, but like she was good, and people bullied the shit out of her for no reason.
Yes,
For no reason,
holy
yeah.
crap.
I think the performance is good. I think that character, it's all melodrama, which is why I didn't like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And that's the driver of the melodrama, he killed all the babies in front of me. It's like, okay, I get it, but the performance was good. I
Yes,
will 100%
yeah.
Yeah.
agree. The performance
Stop
was good.
bullying actors.
Yes,
what
stop.
what is wrong
Yeah.
with you
Why
guys?
don't
Yeah.
you, guy at home on the couch eating nachos right now?
Because they're
I see
watching
you.
our podcast.
I see you through the. Why don't you get on screen and act? How
Yeah,
about that?
huh?
How about you?
Maybe
do it?
I will. They're literally theater kids that are like
Yeah.
40, and you're just like a dickhead. So stop it.
Stop
Yeah.
bullying
She
the
was
girl who played
incredible.
Leia too, because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fucking weird behavior.
Yeah.
Leave them alone.
And they did it for the sequels too.
Just enjoy Star
Like-
Wars.
Yeah.
What's wrong with
yeah.
And if
or
you don't
just,
like it,
just
just-
don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Like I do.
Don't.
Yeah.
Just move on.
That's all.
Yeah.
That was all I wanted to say.
Life has
But
a
I
lot
gotta
of
tell Daisy
mysteries.
Ridley to fuck off.
Yeah.
that? Side soup. We'll see you again
Side
next
soup.
time.
Side soup.
See you
Side-
later.
Hello there.
It's not a meal.
Ewan McGregor.
Obi-Wan.